But there is an argument there that there are a lot of jobs that people will do that Americans who grow up in this country
But
just don't want to do.
does
So
that like prolong the problem though? Like I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely correct. I just think the weird, I guess it's called a paradox. The weird paradox is that while people have never been, while there's never been more of a gap between the extremely wealthy and the extremely poor, at the same time, it's like never been easier to make money, right? There's people who have picked this up and just made videos. It's cost $1,000
right,
and become multimillionaires off it, which was something that was not able to happen in the past, right?
I agree
Now
with
it's
that.
kind of
Yeah,
like winning the lottery, let's be honest, to go
yeah,
viral and to build a career out of it. But you couldn't do that back in the day, right? There was all these gatekeepers. You could have been the funniest person in the world, but if some executive at HBO didn't like you, you were not getting an HBO special. And then nobody heard your voice, right? There's positives and negatives to everything. I think with what we're going to have to do moving forward with the jobs is I think that we will naturally evolve because I had to learn cursive. You had to learn cursive. They don't teach that anymore, right? And it's like they'll say when we were growing up, and I've seen stuff on social media, but it's like your teachers used to say, well, you're not always going to have a calculator in your pocket. And they weren't wrong. Not only do I have a calculator in my pocket, I
you
have
got more.
everything. I got everything,
Got
right?
a lot more than a
I didn't.
calculator.
I didn't have my wallet today, and I was not phased by it because I just Apple paid my way through the day.
100%. Yeah, I don't even need my
Right.
wallet.
So
Right.
it's
Yeah.
like, okay, so or whatever. But yeah, we have to evolve, right? I think the other thing is that sure, there's a housing shortage, there's a housing crisis, but these boomers who are like, oh, my home's worth $2 million. Okay, there are no millennials or Gen Zers who can pay for that, right? And
Right.
I always go
Right.
back to this story when I was a kid. I would collect basketball cards, and I used to buy the Beckett, which would tell you what they were worth because
I
we
remember
didn't
the
have the
Beckett. Yeah,
we
I used to
didn't
do baseball
have
cards. Yeah.
we didn't have the internet. No,
Right. I didn't
all
know you
right.
were old enough to have a Beckett. I wouldn't even have thought you had a Beckett. I remember a Beckett.
I had the
I'm older
basket.
than you.
Yeah. And like I'm looking at it, I'm like, damn, a George Gervin signed card or whatever, right? Iceman.
Yeah.
Um, I just remember that being the most expensive card, right? But I used to say to my dad, right? I'd be like, hey, I got this card. The Beckett's, I bought the pack for $5. The Beckett says it's worth $120, right? And he would always say to me, if you find someone to give you 60 for it, take it, right?
Right. Right.
Because something is, I know this sounds like a very, this statement sounds so stupid, but I think it's so profound. Something is not worth as much as someone is asking for it. Something is only worth as much as someone is willing to pay for it.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all
Yeah.
these boomers, right? And I'm not trying to single out boomers or all these older generations who are like, I bought my home for 2 packs of juicy fruit and 100 grand, right? In 1978, and now it's worth $3 million. Okay, put it on the market and see if you get $3 million. Go ahead, because you're not going to because nobody has it, right? And
Mm.
to further that point, in the last 2 years, according to Realtor.com, more homes have been delisted in the last like 20 years, right? And to delist it essentially means I put it up at 2 million.
Yeah.
Nobody made me any offers at 2 million, so I took it off the market. I'm going to keep it, or maybe I'm going to
Right.
rent it out, right? So we are becoming a renter nation,
Yeah.
right? But there's plenty of factors that go into that. But these homes aren't worth as much as like these people think they are, right? Because it's only
Yeah.
worth as much as someone's willing to pay for it, and there's nobody out there to pay for it.
Well, that's a
So
great point. That's a great point because I think that is part of, and a lot of people don't actually talk about that point of it. The fact that, yeah, it's supply and demand, but it's like you have the supply, but people can't afford the actual supply. And that's going to be part of the reset. Everybody talks about a crash, but I think that is part of a reset to kind of reset
there's
what
got to be
people
something.
for. Yeah.
There's
Because,
got there's got to be something, right? Yeah, and I think that more and more, I've also read that more and more younger people are actually turning to the stock market because they're like, okay, I've saved up 50 grand. That's not enough for a down payment, but I can invest in half of that
right.
into a safe stock or whatever it is, right? So things are changing. We are definitely becoming a nation with no middle class. I think that's abundantly evident and clear, and I think that's very sad. People, I think that we are in a second I think that we are in a second gilded age, right? There's like a thin gilding, a layer of gold. There's people that are making money, right? People
Yeah.
who are heavily invested in the stock market, but everybody else is suffering.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's one president's fault or not another president's fault.
Right.
I don't think that's the case. I think it's just been going on this way for a long time. And both sides are just grifting, looting
Oh
from
man,
us.
the grift is crazy all the way around the
Yeah,
board, and you're so right because I think people want to that point. I think people want a quick answer. They want to. That's why people gravitate to like maybe a Mandami who's promising things, and I think that the danger in that is people have to understand these issues that are going on with affordability, healthcare, jobs. It's not something that is a quick fix. It really is not. And that's just a great point. Let me ask you a question though, because when you were talking about housing for a minute, we're talking about
sure.
affordability and inventory. So, do you think that major corporations should be banned from like buying single family homes? You know, I know
You're talking about like what
obviously
BlackRock or Blackstone
BlackRock and
does in
so on.
Middle
Yeah.
America. So that answer is the short answer is yes. Okay, but do you want to know why that's the short answer? Oh, you got, did I freeze? Okay. Do you
No.
want to, all right. The selfish answer is no. And I'll tell you why the selfish answer is no,
Hmm.
because those people who work at BlackRock and Blackstone buy and rent apartments from me. No. Yeah, man.
I was gonna say it might not be the most popular thing to say yes or no about, but
Ask me how many BlackRock and Blackstone employee apartments I've rented. Tons. They're the only ones who can afford it. They're making 4, 5, 600 grand a year. All right, but no, but yeah. Listen, of course. Listen. I think the problem is that it got to a certain point where we just sold out the whole country, right? I do believe that that shouldn't be allowed because it's turning us into a renter nation. There should be
or at least
legislation.
limited, right?
Just like there should be legislation that China cannot own farmland in the United States. They're an enemy. Why are they buying up so much farmland? That's concerning,
Yeah.
right? But they're selling it at a premium, so they don't care, right? We've sold the whole country out essentially at this
Right.
point, right? It's like everyone's in it for the grift, everyone's in for the loot, right? De Blasio and his wife can't account for like $900 million that were supposed to go to Thrive NYC, a mental health initiative,
Wow.
and I thought it was 90 million until someone said, no, 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 it's 900 million,
Nine
right?
hundred million. Wow.
No, hundreds of millions of dollars. You can fact check
Billion.
that. They just can't account for the money. Okay, right? Eric Adams had his side chick on payroll for 250 grand a year, right? And she came
Yeah.
out and was like, "I loved him." It's like, yo, you got a no show job. Shut your mouth. Right?
And she's got
Your
her
health,
well, she's like, I gotta put my book out now.
yo,
So
your health benefits are probably crazy, right?